What are Manchester City's most expensive deals in history? Hello, everyone. Manuel Akanji moved from Borussia Dortmund to Manchester City for €20 million in 2022. Javi Garcia moved from Benfica to Manchester City for €20 million in 2022. Jesus Navas moved from Sevilla to Manchester City for €20 million in 2013. Roque Santa Cruz moved from Blackburn Rovers to Manchester City for €21.2 million. Julian Alvarez moved from River Plate to Manchester City for €21.5 million. James Milner moved from Aston Villa to Manchester City for €22 million. Aleksandar Kolarov moved from Lazio to Manchester City for €24 million. Joe from CSKA Moscow to Manchester City for €24 million. Alvaro Negredo moved from Sevilla to Manchester City for €25 million. Savinho moved from Troy to Manchester City for €25 million. Stevan Jovetic moved from Fiorentina to Manchester City for €26 million. Ilkay Gundogan moved from Borussia Dortmund to Manchester City for €27 million. Jolien Lescott moved from Everton to Manchester City for €27.5 million. Samir Nasri moved from Arsenal to Manchester City for €27.5 million. David Silva moved from Valencia to Manchester City for €28.7 million. Carlos Tevez moved from Manchester United to Manchester City for €29 million. Emmanuel Adebayor moved from Arsenal to Manchester City for €29 million. Mateo Kovacic moved from Chelsea to Manchester City for €29 million. Mario Balotelli moved from Inter Milan to Manchester City for €29.5 million. Yaya Toure moved from Barcelona to Manchester City for €30 million. Danilo moved from Real Madrid to Manchester City for €30 million. Gabriel Jesus moved from Palmeiras to Manchester City for €32 million. Wilfried Bony moved from Swansea City to Manchester City for €32.3 million. Ferran Torres moved from Valencia to Manchester City for €33.5 million. Edin Dzeko moved from Wolfsburg to Manchester City for €37 million. Ederson moved from Benfica to Manchester City for €40 million. Fernandinho moved from Shakhtar Donetsk to Manchester City for €40 million. Sergio Aguero moved from Atletico Madrid to Manchester City for €40 million. Abdulkadir Kusanov moved from Lens to Manchester City for €40 million. Robinho moved from Real Madrid to Manchester City for €43 million. Nicolas Otamendi moved from Valencia to Manchester City for €44.5 million. Eliakim Mangala moved from Porto to Manchester City for €45 million. Nathan Ake moved from Bournemouth to Manchester City for €45.3 million. Calvin Phillips moved from Leeds United to Manchester City for €49 million. Bernardo Silva moved from Monaco to Manchester City for €50 million. Leroy Sané moved from Schalke 04 to Manchester City for €52 million. Kyle Walker moved from Tottenham for €52.7 million. John Stones moved from Everton for €55.6 million. Benjamin Mendy moved from Monaco for €57.5 million. Jeremy Doku moved from Rennes for €60 million. Erling Haaland moved from Borussia Dortmund for €60 million. Matheus Nunes moved from Wolverhampton for €62 million. Raheem Sterling moved from Liverpool for €63.7 million. Aymeric Laporte moved from Athletic Bilbao for €65 million. João Cancelo moved from Juventus for €65 million. Riyad Mahrez moved from Leicester City for €67.8 million. Rodri moved from Atletico Madrid for €70 million. Ruben Dias moved from Benfica for €71.6 million. Kevin De Bruyne moved from Wolfsburg for €76 million. Omar Marmoush moved from Eintracht Frankfurt for €80 million. Josko Gvardiol moved from RB Leipzig for 90 million euros. Jack Grealish moved from Aston Villa for 117 million euros. At the time of creating the video, Manchester City signed Vitor Reis from Palmeiras for 35 million euros. What is the best transfer deal in Manchester City's history, in your opinion? And who is the best player in the club's current squad? If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like the video as a way of support. Thank you for watching.